Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, dear viewers. Today we will be reading and analyzing Ted Hughes' poem, The Thought Fox, which is a remarkable poem for a number of reasons. Number one, it is a part of the poet's first poetry collection, The Hawk in the Rain, published in 1957. Second, it contains animal imagery or an extended animal metaphor, a key feature which is distinctive of several of Hughes' works. Third, intertextually, the poem can be linked to G.M. Hopkins's The Windhover and William Blake's The Tiger, the former being a poet who was introduced to Hughes during his secondary school days by his teachers Miss MacLeod and Pauline May. And fourth, thematically, the poem deals with the nature of artistic or creative inspiration, by virtue of which it can be said to have an affinity with Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Kubla Khan. Born in 1930, Hughes was the poet laureate of the United Kingdom from 1984 until his death in 1998 and is considered to be one of the greatest writers or poets of the 20th century. From childhood onwards, he had been in close proximity both of nature and animals, working whether as a retriever for his gamekeeper brother or as a washer upper at the London Zoo. However, he is not a poet of nature in the Wordsworthian sense, as according to Heather Clark, he depicts nature as a cold, powerful, and amoral force. Hughes had enrolled at Pembroke College, Cambridge in 1951, following 2 years of national service. While there, he felt stifled by what he has described as the terrible, suffocating maternal octopus of the English poetic tradition. Averse to Lewisite close reading of works that can be detrimental to a text's artistic beauty or organic unity, despite acknowledging that he had a special bent or sadistic streak for it. Hughes had written virtually no poetry during this time, and for his third year, had given up English for archaeology and anthropology. For Hughes, poems are a kind of animal having a life of their own, and a literary critique, in dissecting them for analysis, ends up maiming or perhaps even killing them. One cannot help but recall Wordsworth, who says, "Our meddling intellect misshapes the beauteous forms of things we murder to dissect." While at Pembroke, Hughes had two vivid dreams involving a fox and a leopard, about which he wrote in detail to his friend Keith Sagar in a letter dated 16th July 1979. Saga, by the way, who belonged to the extramural department of the University of Manchester, which had been established as part of the university extension movement of the 19th century, has to be credited for initiating Ted Hughes studies and for his noteworthy work on D.H. Lawrence. In the letter, Hughes mentions that he was struggling with the writing of the weekly essay, and by the end of the second year, the problem had become quite chronic. While he was able to write fluently at times, as he recalled writing about Blake, at other times he struggled, as was the case with the essay on Samuel Johnson, a figure or personality that he quite admired. Having written some three or four lines, he gave up and went to bed. He dreamed that a creature entered his room with a fox's head and a long, skinny fox's body, but erect and with human hands. He came forward, and it seemed that as if he had escaped from a fire. His skin was charred, cracking, bleeding. He stepped forward and set his hand on the page on which Hughes was working, and leaning forward said, "Stop this, you are destroying us." When he removed his hand, there was a blood print on the page. And today, the phrase burning the foxes has become a metaphor for the destructiveness of literary criticism, or for an artist's fear about the destructive effects of literary criticism on their works. So, with this little bit of context, let us now read the poem. I imagine this midnight moment's forest. Something else is alive beside the clock's loneliness and this blank page where my fingers move. So it's midnight. The poet is struggling to write, the poet is struggling to compose his poem, and no one else is there. It's quite lonely, and the poet personifies the clock's ticking as if the clock is ticking about its loneliness. The very first line echoes G.M. Hopkins's "The Wind Hover." I caught this morning, morning's minion. The alliteration, midnight moments, forest. The repetition of the mer sound and the ter sound. Imagine midnight moment. Uh, the page is blank. The poet is struggling, but he feels that something else is also alive apart from the clock's loneliness. And what this is will become evident or clear as we move further down the lines. Through the window, I see no star. Now, at first reading, at first sight, this seems a kind of a superfluous detail, unnecessary. Why does the poet have to mention this? That through the window he sees no star or no stars. What Hughes is trying to suggest, perhaps, is that no matter what happens, he will not be writing conventional poetry about the stars and the moon, number one, or secondly, he is trying to reject or undercut the notion of creativity or poetry as divinely inspired. So he says, through the window, I see no star. Something more near, though deeper within darkness, is entering the loneliness. Inspiration is something that comes from within. One is perhaps reminded of Coleridge's Frost at Midnight. Something more near, though deeper within darkness. Again, we have the alliteration, deeper darkness is entering the loneliness. Cold, delicately, as the dark snow, a fox's nose touches twig, leaf. Now, the arrival of inspiration is slow. It cannot be hastened. It, as we'll see just a few lines down, comes about its own business. It cannot be hurried. It cannot be hastened. So, very slowly, very delicately as delicate as the snow is, the fox's nose touches the twig, the leaf of the tree. Two eyes serve a movement that now and again now sets knit prints into the snow. And with a bit of enjambment, the poet is describing the movement of the fox as the fox is slowly walking further, moving out of the shadows, coming out of the darkness, but at its own speed. It cannot be rushed, as I said. So, and the fox's footprints set a print in the snow as just the ink of the pen that the writer uses sets his prints on the blank page, on the white of the paper. So the whiteness of the page is also somewhere compared to the whiteness of the snow, and the act of writing is compared with this the foxes slowly moving forward between trees, and verily a lame shadow lags by stump and in hollow of a body that is bold to come. So the fox is gradually stepping out of the bushes. The fox is slowly coming forward, but it's still the shadow of the fox. So the poet has perhaps had some sort of an inspiration. The writer has some sort of an idea. He might have thought of some characters, some situations that he would like to explore. But as in Keats's sonnet, "When I have fears that I may cease to be," they are still dots that needs to be connected, obviously through the help of the magic hand of chance. So the fox is still yet to fully step outside, is yet to fully emerge. Inspiration is there. Some shoots have come in the mind, but it is not fully developed yet. So it's the shadow, and the body is yet to come, bold to come. Across clearings, an eye, a widening, deepening greenness, brilliantly, concentratedly, coming about its own business. As I said, that the fox will step out, inspiration will come at its own pace. It cannot be hurried, it cannot be hastened, you cannot force it, uh, till with a sudden, sharp, hot stink of fox, it enters the dark hole of the head. And suddenly, the idea is now fully formed, the idea is now fully materialized, that I will be writing a poem which is about the process of writing a poem. I will be creating a story with these characters, writing a story with these situations. Now the beginning, the middle, the climax is suddenly all clear, with a sudden sharp hot stink of fox. Suddenly the inspiration is so strong, it is so intense, as if you can smell it. It enters the dark hole of the head. It enters the poet's or the writer's mind, and uses punning with the word whole. Whole as in something that is hollow, something that is empty. And with the arrival of inspiration, creative inspiration, that something that is hollow and empty is now whole, WHOLE, whole. It is filled, it is complete. The window is starless still, the clock ticks, the page is printed. And now this becomes very clear that earlier Hughes was definitely undercutting this notion of creativity as divinely inspired. That the window is still starless, inspiration doesn't come from the outside, the clock ticks, the page is printed, and suddenly, moments before, when the poet was suffering from this writer's block, whether for the past few minutes or the past few days or the past few weeks or the past few months, now suddenly, within moments, within a few minutes, the page is printed, the entire poem has been written down. And this sudden arrival of inspiration is something that we can compare with what Coleridge writes in Kubla Khan, the fountain that is mentioned in Kubla Khan. Coleridge describes the fountain as a swift, but its burst is also half intermittent. It is swift, it arrives swiftly, it arrives quickly, but it is also half intermittent in the sense that it does not occur at regular, it does not occur continuously. There's a gap, there's a break, it occurs at regular intervals. So inspiration is like this. So that is why I said that this poem has a thematic affinity with Coleridge's Kubla Khan. Coleridge also believes that inspiration is something that at times arrives quickly, but also has gaps in between. And Hughes is also perhaps going in the same direction. Uh, Throughout the poem, the poet has used a regular stanzaic structure. We have the quatrain structure, four lines in each stanza, but he doesn't use any particular meter. It is free verse. The poem does not have a fixed meter. The rhyme scheme is also experimental. There are I rhymes, for example, snow and now. I rhymes, those kinds of rhymes which are the spellings are similar, but the pronunciations are not. And we have half rhymes, such as, for example, fox and ticks. I hope this analysis has been helpful. Uh, as always, you are free to drop in your comments, your suggestions, and please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.